was in court. She joins us now live from Pretoria. Erin, if you just think back, there was that fallout just following the release of the public protector's report into the failed Vrede Dairy Farm project. A whole range of just activist institutions coming out and saying the exact same things that we've just said now, that it was a complete whitewash and that the people who were, in fact, directly implicated in several media reports before the release of the public protector's report were not even mentioned in that final report.
No, and in fact, Advocate Busisiwe for the DA arguing that there was a lot of information in the public domain which the public protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, simply didn't proactively follow up on, as is her constitutional mandate, drawing there on a judgment from the Supreme Court of Appeal on what exactly are the duties of the public protector when it comes to her investigations. Now, she cited, for example, financial constraints. She cited the fact that it wasn't her sort of directive to investigate the Guptas, but that's simply not good enough as far as the DA is concerned when it comes to what they say she should have done, and now what she needs to answer for, remedy, and possibly face a firing over.
So take us through whether we have heard any part of what her defense will be. What is heard in court today in terms of a response by the DA against what the DA is saying?
Yes, Michelle. So the Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane briefly appeared this morning during proceedings against her and her Vrede Dairy Project report, which was issued to the public in February of this year. We do know from some of what's proceeded in court today already what some of her retorts have been to the argument of the DA. Her saying, for example, that she's not allowed to refer matters to the Special Investigating Unit or the Auditor General, which the DA have argued very strongly are simply not correct facts in law. She may do so, and she may, in her remedial action they submit, also refer matters to other government departments should there be financial constraints, which they don't really concede anyway, citing a report to Parliament. And so we've got some sense at this point that she's arguing the limits of what she could do in this matter, the time constraints, and also claiming that Ace Magashule is the only person she could have referred her remedial action to in terms of possibly firing people or sanctioning people in the Free State Department of Agriculture. Again, the DA submitting that's simply not correct in law. She's misunderstood what her duties are and, importantly, what her powers are to go and subpoena people, search and seize premises and gather the facts in order to determine the truth.
Erin, this argument around whether the public protector understands what her role and what her mandate is, surely this argument will come up again, given we've seen similar questions around other findings, other comments she's made. I'm thinking particularly around changing the mandate of the Reserve Bank.
Yes, certainly, and even that ABSA case was raised in court this morning by Advocate Busisiwe for the DA. We may well see a similar line of argument as well when CASAC, the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution, also argues for the review and setting aside of the Public Protector's Vrede Dairy Project report. They're here as well. It's on a different case number, but again, they too have grievances about this report. And Michelle, I really got a sense this morning from arguments from Advocate Busisiwe that for the DA, this report is a blip on the radar. It really is toothless in their eyes. It's a whitewash. It doesn't single out political principals, role players in the provincial government in the Free State for their role potentially in the Vrede Dairy Project, and certainly a lot of evidence from the Gupta leaks on that front. Mention of Makhashule's son, for example, and his engagements with the Gupta, travel to India, which was bankrolled by the family through Sahara computer accounts and the like. So they're just unhappy at the situation of this report, which seems to have been rushed, seems to not really have much power or clout, and which the public protector seems to have no problem with.
Yeah, I mean, it was 220 million rand spent on this failed Vrede Dairy project. What does the report say about recovering that money, holding the people to account who misused those funds?
Well, this is exactly the grievance on the part of the Democratic Alliance. They say, for example, that it's astounding that Mkhwebane recommends that Magashule, of all people, is given the remedial action recommendation that he then take disciplinary action against anyone involved in Estina. Well, their argument is that he himself was involved in Estina in some way, shape or form, and therefore how can he be the correct person to refer the matter to? They've also raised grievances about the fact that Mkhwebane didn't investigate what became of the money which was passed over from the Free State Department of Agriculture to Estina itself. The Public Protector saying that simply wasn't her job, it wasn't the expectation in terms of her report. But we also know from proceedings this morning that she claims she drew on a forensic report which was commissioned by National Treasury to investigate what exactly happened at Estina and whether or not it followed proper protocol. Simple answer, Michelle, is that it didn't. It flouted proper protocol and seems to have been simply for the benefit of a Gupta-associated company and at the expense of at least 100 farmers in the Free State who'd been earmarked to benefit from this dairy development project and never did. And of course we know from news in the last 2 days that one of those beneficiaries has died just as this matter is appearing before the North Gauteng High Court.
Yeah, that rather bizarre story being covered by our colleague Michael Apple. Erin, before I let you go, it's 1:20 now. Are we merely on a lunch break there in the North Gauteng High Court? Does this case resume a little later on this afternoon?
Yes, Michelle. So we're on lunch until 2 o'clock. Then it's likely that we will hear either from CASAC or from the Public Protector's Council because, of course, we have these two parallel applications over the same report. The court has assigned 2 days for this matter, so we may well see proceedings rolling over in tomorrow as well.
All right. Well, you'll keep us up to date as that story unfolds.